Okay, people, we're halfway through the NFL season. We've gotten a book on a lot of teams. We know who's good. We know who's bad. I'm going to give you guys my top 10 NFL teams at the halfway point of the 2020 NFL season. Let's get that started. Let's go from the bottom and get to the top, and then I'll give a whole synopsis on how I felt these teams kind of shaped out on my list. So at number 10, I have the Arizona Cardinals. Number 9, Tennessee Titans. Number 8, New Orleans Saints. Number 7, Los Angeles Rams. Number 6, Baltimore Ravens. Number 5, Green Bay Packers. Number 4, Seattle Seahawks. Number 3, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Number 2, Pittsburgh Steelers. And number 1, I have the defending Super Bowl champion, Kansas City Chiefs. So let's start from the top. Kansas City, to me, is the number 1 team so far. I know they did lose to the Las Vegas Raiders early in the season, but Kansas City, they've been super impressive. They've still got the best player in football in Patrick Mahomes. Andy Reid's an excellent head coach. I believe they arguably have the best roster in the entire NFL. And we could talk about Mahomes and the offense, but keep in mind, this team is 3rd in points per game allowed on defense, so they have a top 5 defense statistically. They're 12th in rushing, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire, as we speak today, they're starting running back. He's 3rd in the NFL in rushing yards. Not to mention, this team added Le'Veon Bell. They're a pretty darn good football team. They get the number 1 spot for me. Pittsburgh Steelers are number 2. There's no real weakness to the Pittsburgh Steelers. My only concern for Pittsburgh is they have won 4 one-possession games, and even the Eagles and Giants game was kind of close from time to time, but they're a very good team with very few weaknesses. They easily could win Super Bowl 55. They did block Cleveland earlier in the year. They usually always block Cleveland. But yeah, Pittsburgh, not a whole lot of holes. Big Ben's playing well. The defense is sound. It's very, very good. You know, the offensive line is great. They got weapons for days at wide receiver. Chase Claypool's a star. Juju's good. Deontay Johnson, Eric Ebron at tight end. He's really good. Pittsburgh at number 2. They're the one team in the AFC, in my opinion, that's perfectly built to beat Kansas City. Not saying they're going to beat Kansas City, but they have the horses to do it. Number 3 for me is Tampa Bay. They were my Super Bowl 55 pick. I picked the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to win the Super Bowl in the offseason. Now, I'm not moving off that pick officially, but as we speak today, I think that on a neutral field, Pittsburgh and Kansas City would beat Tampa Bay. My questions with Tampa Bay are, they're a little inconsistent. One week, they're destroying the Green Bay Packers and the Las Vegas Raiders. The next minute, they're barely beating the Chargers. They're barely beating the Giants. And they did lose to Chicago and New Orleans. And I wonder down the stretch if Father Time is going to catch up to Tom Brady. That's just a slight concern I have, but they're number 3 for me. Number 4 is Seattle. Between Green Bay and Seattle, I think Green Bay is actually more talented than Seattle. But as of right now, at the time of this segment, Seattle's been more consistent. And you know, my concern with Seattle is they depend way too much on Russell Wilson and that offense. They have the number 1 scoring offense, but as I mentioned earlier, the worst total defense in the entire NFL, and they're 24th in points per game. Can their defense get enough stops to win them a Super Bowl? Maybe, maybe not. We shall see. Green Bay, a lot to like with Green Bay. Elite quarterback in Aaron Rodgers, star wide receiver in Devontae Adams, a star running back in Aaron Jones, one of the best offensive lines in the entire NFL. Matt LaFleur seems to be one of the most underrated head coaches in all of football. Jair Alexander at the cornerback position has been playing phenomenal this year. And Green Bay, they do have a decent pass rush. My problem with Green Bay is they did not make a move at the trading deadline. And while they're very good, I'm not sure if they're ready to tussle with Pittsburgh, Tampa Bay, and Kansas City. There is a slight gap between those teams in Green Bay. And Green Bay at times has shown they can get pushed around by physical football teams. But I will say, if Aaron Rodgers is hot and they can run the football and hold teams to under 30 points, they can win the Super Bowl. Up next is Baltimore. Really, the thing about Baltimore that I mentioned earlier is I don't trust Lamar Jackson come playoff time. Ronnie Stanley's out for the year, and their wide receiver core is not impressive to me. Marquise Hollywood Brown, he's good, but not great. Mark Andrews, he's a good tight end, but in big games, he disappears. And the teams that Baltimore is going to have to go through are the Titans, are the Chiefs, and the Steelers. And in the past two years, they have not matched up particularly well with those teams. So that's how I feel about Baltimore in regards to their chances. They're number 6 for me. The Los Angeles Rams. They're a really good football team, but they're a little too inconsistent for me. And they really don't have a signature win. They've beaten the Cowboys. They've beaten the Philadelphia Eagles. They've beaten the Giants. They've beaten Washington. They've gotten fat on the NFC Leafs. They got 4 wins versus teams in the worst division in all football. The only signature win they have is versus Chicago. Okay, they beat Chicago. Congratulations. Chicago's not a great team. They're not even on this list. And they lost to Buffalo. They lost to the 49ers. And they lost to Miami. So the Rams, they're a good team, but not a great team. They're at number 7. Number 8, gotta go with the Saints. The Saints are a talented team, but I want to know if Drew Brees can make enough big boy throws to win them a Super Bowl. And if you bracket Michael Thomas and limit Alvin Kamara, I don't think the Saints have a second or third punch. I really don't. And their secondary has been very inconsistent all year, but they're at number 8. The Titans, they're a good team. You could actually put the Titans in your top 5, and I won't be mad at you, but I'm kind of low on Tennessee just because they don't really have a pass rush. And if you can't hit the quarterback when you're going against Ben Roethlisberger, Patrick Mahomes, and Lamar Jackson, that's a problem. And looking at that game versus Cincinnati, it was ugly for the Tennessee Titans. The Bengals have the worst offensive line in the entire NFL. They've arguably the worst offensive line in football. And the Titans, they got 0 sacks on the Cincinnati Bengals. They could not expose the worst offensive line in football, arguably, at least one of the 5 worst offensive lines. So that's concerning. And the Titans, they barely beat the Jaguars. They barely beat the Vikings. They barely beat the Texans. And they barely beat the Broncos. And when they faced Pittsburgh, despite that game being close, Pittsburgh clearly was the better team in my opinion. So they're at number 9. Arizona, last but not least. This team is kind of the knockoff version of the Seahawks. They're just way too dependent on Kyler Murray. I know they're top 10 in scoring as far as defense goes this year, but they faced the 49ers who have been banged up all year. They faced an inconsistent Washington team. They faced an inconsistent Detroit team, inconsistent Carolina team, the terrible New York Jets, the terrible Dallas Cowboys, and they did beat Seattle, but it took everything in Kyler Murray's power to pull off that win versus Seattle. So I just think that Arizona eventually is going to run out of gas. They're a playoff team, but they're number 10 for me. So those are the 10 best teams in all football as we speak today, halfway through the season. Let me know what you guys think in the comments section if you're watching on YouTube. Love to know what you guys have to say. Thank you so much for watching this video today. Please also note that the Juice Alert Sports Podcast is not just a YouTube channel. It is available on all podcasting platforms, including Spotify, Google Podcasts, iTunes, and Apple Podcasts. Also, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share this content with all your friends. This podcast is my favorite thing in the entire world right now. It is my passion. And I want more people to listen to this podcast. I really want this podcast to grow. Also, a fun fact about me is that I want to go into the sports broadcasting and media world once I graduate from the University of Toledo, a college in Northern Ohio. I am looking to become one of the next great sports broadcasters and analysts out in the world. And I potentially would like to start my own network if this podcast really truly grows. Or if I fall short of that goal, I would love to work for a big-time network like ESPN or Fox Sports 1. I am open to all networks. So if you believe in my dreams and you see or hear my passion through the screen, be sure to tell all your friends about the Juice Alert Sports Podcast. Stay motivated, you guys. Have a God bless day, and I'm out.